have a different kind of video today. This is an unboxing video. Now, you can see the box isn't sealed. My kids opened it up to see if it was a toy. But I haven't been in here yet. What I've got here today, this is a $9 ring light from Amazon. Now, if you don't know what a ring light is, it's a cheap imitation of professional photography lighting. So you get shadows on your face. You know, if I turn my head, I imagine there's a shadow from my nose. And it doesn't look very appealing in photographs. So when you go to a professional photo studio, you see they got the big umbrellas. Those umbrella lights are to get rid of the shadows. They create diffuse light, and they use at least two. They put them in different angles, so you got light coming in both sides of your face, both sides of your nose, both sides of your chin. Everything has light. And I bet my chin doesn't look very good because I probably got shadows on it. It kind of accentuates your double chin. So ring lights, they have a ring, and it should be bigger than your nose, probably actually ideally bigger than your face. So light comes at you from all sides, but then they place it closer than an umbrella light would be. So let's take a look. This is a $9 ring light from Amazon. Let's see what we got in the box. This is supposed to be a 6-inch ring light. This is the cord. So it's got a USB plug, and there's some controls on it. It's hard to read it. Looks like you need a light just to read the controls. You got red on black. Those are really difficult to read controls. So there's like a plus, a minus. In the middle of those, there's some kind of circle with arrows. I think that's a mode switch. And there's a red button, which I think is on off. Give it a pretty good click. So I think the buttons are durable enough. I chose this one because this one has a clip. So if it doesn't work great for videos, I can clamp it on my car hood and use it as a work light if I'm working on my car. So it looks like, not quite sure how this goes on, because it's like there's a ball. Okay, you can turn that ball. That is really tight. Okay, you can loosen that up, that ball up, you can turn it, and then you can tighten it. So there's a tighten the ball, and it does have a ball joint, which is good, and it has a kind of fixed 90 position, and it twists on, but it's not a normal tripod screw. Now with a tripod screw, you turn the wheel, it turns the screw, so it screws it up into your camera. But this, you're going to have to screw it the whole clamp to get it up in there, and this would just that's actually kind of pointless. I mean, it just gives you a stop for it to screw down. Let's look at the light itself. Here's the light. I mean, there really wasn't much packaging, so probably could have banged around in there quite a bit. At $9, a little bit of scratches. So there's this white plastic is a diffuser, because LEDs are just intense little dots of light. They're pretty small little intense patches of light, and the diffuser kind of spreads that out some. You see that on your light bulbs, your LED light bulbs in your house. They got that frosted glass look, but it's actually frosted plastic. Diffuses the light, so you aren't getting these like bright, blinding pinpoints of light, burning little dots in your eye. And then it's got a screw to go on that clamp. Let's try to get that on there. And like I said, I have to either turn the light or turn the clamp, which is not ideal. I guess the one thing that does give you is that I could turn it at an angle, but then I could tighten it up with that wheel. So I can get through that. It's pretty light, pretty cheap. I didn't expect much. So I'll undo this cord, and then we'll turn out the lights. Now, something to be wary of. So I think this is 20 LEDs, somewhere around that number. And so a regular plain normal USB port is 500 milliamps at 5 volts, 2.5 watts. Some of these ring lights are 7 watts, 7.5 watts, so 1.5 amps. And what happens with the USB chargers, good USB chargers limit the current. They're current limited power supplies. So if you plug something in that wants too much power, they'll pull as much power as they can, but the power supply won't let it pull so much power, it overheats and catches fire. Okay? But what does happen is the voltage drops. So if it can give you 5 volts, which is normal for USB at 500 milliamps, but then you try to pull 2 amps out of it, that voltage drops. Okay, and so it might drop to the point your device cannot function at all. It just won't even operate. Or I'm wondering if this light is actually going to operate dimly. So I have 3 different power supplies, USB power supplies, and each of those has different current range. So when you look on them, they got these really tiny numbers. Most of them are pretty hard to read. This is one of the easier ones because it actually had white lettering. They'll say, by law, a proper power supply is going to say what the current limit is. It will say 5V, and then it will say 0.500 milliamps or 0.5 amps or 2.0 amps. So this one is a 550 milliamp. This one's a 700 milliamp, and this one is a 2 amp. Okay, so on the website, they recommend a 2 amp supply for this. We're going to see what happens when we plug them in lower power supplies. I expect these ones will not catch fire because these are all name brand power supplies. This is a Huntke brand, which makes good supplies, but it's an older one, so the current lamp's pretty small. This one came with an old LG phone, and this one is a Motorola charger that came with my phone. So all of these, they should be current limited. They shouldn't catch fire. A really cheap supply. Maybe you pick something up at dollar store, or even the cheapest one you can find on Amazon. It might not have good current limit, and that's when you hear these stories about people's chargers catching fire, because they weren't built to handle overcurrent. So I'm going to turn out the lights. It's going to get dark, and then we're going to plug in the ring light and see what happens. Okay, we're going to start with worst case for shadows. This is just the light on my phone camera, and I wear glasses, and so different angles, I imagine you're getting glare at this point. And I've got shadows, I can look like I'm a vampire. I can make scary faces, right? It's the shadows. And if you're not trying to be in a horror movie and you're making YouTube videos, you're blogging, fashion blogging especially, you don't want those shadows. So I'm going to plug this in. We're going to start on the lowest. And the control lit up, which helps me find it in the dark at least. That's a nice little feature. It's got a little blue light to it. Push the power. And it is actually functioning. Let's see what happens. This is pretty bright. Actually, I'm surprised it's surviving. Maybe that power supply can put out quite a bit more than possible. So, your ring lights, if they're off to the side, you still get shadows. So what they're designed to do is you put your camera shooting through the middle of it. Okay, and it should be pretty close to your camera, because otherwise the angle of view of your camera will end up picking up some of that light, and it will wash out the signal. And then everything you're pointing at will be pretty dark, and you just get this bright ring. So I'll go ahead and get that as close to the camera as I can, and let's pull it out, and you'll see that effect. So you got to keep it really close to your camera. If you're behind it, you end up a shadow of your camera. If I'm above it, it's not going to work so good unless I have two ring lights. I could put one on either side. So this side would look fine if I have one on this side. That one would look okay. And if the light's coming out at an angle, I won't get the glare on my lenses like that phone light will, because it's coming straight on and that's bouncing straight back at the camera. So let's see if I can cover that light without, and see the glare on my glasses should drop, right? Because light's reflecting off this, shooting away from the camera. Okay, I'm surprised how bright that is coming through. Let's step up. Well, let's go ahead and see if there's a difference in brightness between the supplies as we go up in current, and then we'll play with the modes. Okay, so it turns off by default. I'm in the 700 milliamp. Okay, that doesn't seem much different than the 500 milliamp. And it might be starting out. So it's got multiple brightness levels. So it might be starting out at a low brightness. And so it wouldn't be pulling more than that supply can handle on the low brightness. So it's kicking on again. Okay. And the brightness, it's maybe a little bit brighter than it was in the other ones. It's not that noticeable. It might show up more in the video. And let's try the plus and the minus. Use the light so I can see the buttons. Okay, so there's the minus. And I can turn down the brightness. Okay, so this is the minimum brightness now. Let's see how that takes the shadows away. Okay, I'll just go from here. This is minimum, and I think it's got 7 levels. Let's just keep tapping it. Yeah, that's for sure the brightest, and it is noticeably brighter than what it started out at, actually. So I'll step those down. Let's count how many we go down. So this is brightest. Now, down one, down, 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 down. Oh, didn't go down any further. So let's go ahead and push this cycle. Let's turn up the brightness all the way. And let's push that cycle button, see what happens. So the cycle is changing the color temperature. So I think that looks like a soft white to me. Bright white, daylight. So color temperatures, you'll see them written, you'll see things written like 5,000 K, 7,000 K. So the K stands for kelvins. It has to do with, say, like the temperature of the sun. So the sun burning at 7,000 degrees gives off that light. So because the light you have, it's various colors mixed together. So it's really the amount of colors mixed together that make the white. So soft white, when you talk about candlelight, that's kind of the soft romantic light. Bright white's kind of an in-between. Daylight gives you more kind of the true colors of what things should look like. So let's see what happens. Let's go to the lowest one, the 500 milliamp. Let's see how bright I can push this. And I'm pushing the plus button and it's not going up. So it appears, so it seems like this light is actually safe to use on the lower power supply. I'll go down so far it goes down. So down, 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 and that's the end. Okay. Now, so it's kind of interesting because it's when you're up, 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 up. So it's when you click through, it's kind of like the the 4 highest brightness settings are all the same when you don't have enough power for them. It's just a duty cycling it's going through. It's running a faster duty cycle. There's just not more power available. But it seems pretty safe. I would still not suggest plugging it straight to some USB ports in your laptops. So what happens, I'll go and switch back to the brightest one so you can see me best when I talk. Let's go ahead and turn this back on. There's a glowing light that helps you find the button in the dark, which helps. Let's go ahead and do daylight. So, so as I was saying, so you'll have on your, there's USB 2.0 ports and there's USB 3 ports. There's a big difference in how much data they can transfer, how fast they can do it. Now, the other most important thing regarding powering devices is USB 2 is limited to 500 milliamps. That's what the technical specification requires them to do. Okay. USB 3 ports can provide more power. So if you plug this light into a USB 2 port on a laptop, it's only designed to give you 500 milliamps. And you can't guarantee that current limit protection in that is going to be perfect. So if you go plug it in an underpowered USB port on your laptop, you risk burning out circuitry on your motherboard laptop, which can cost you $200 to replace or more. If you plug it in USB 3 port, that should be fine because that's designed to handle a higher current. So I think overall I'm happy with this. I think I'd have to be positioned pretty close to the camera for the light to get rid of all the shadows because of the radius of it. It's just a 6-inch light. I think it's pretty useful for the price. So this is the $9 ring light from Amazon. Has a useful clamp. It's a pretty strong clamp. It feels pretty sturdy, so I'm not worried about this. The clamp weighs more than the light. So I believe that clamp, it's going to hold pretty good. I mean, that's not going to fall off. It hurts your fingers a bit holding up and down there. So, and it's got some rubber on the grip, so that clamp is pretty good. So, if nothing else, our work light in my car, I can clamp that on the hood, and I can adjust the angle of this light. So this thing is pretty good. You could clamp it. Thin tripod might be kind of hard to clamp too. But you could clamp, you could clamp to a chair. You should probably be able to clamp this to a tripod leg. You can clamp it to a tripod leg. It works pretty good. So I think it's a pretty good deal. So in that similar light at Walmart was like $15. So this is a pretty good deal. So I'll put a link to it below the video. Subscribe so you'll get notified when I got more videos posted. And have a great day.